It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, so all this talk about rolling Christopher Luxon, is it real? Sure. National MPs, ministers, party people have for months now been unimpressed with Christopher Luxon. They can't really see him changing. But talk's the easy bit. Making it happen is, well, it's much, much harder. And no one has the balls in the party to make it happen right now. Decent, popular and in control prime ministers never have to address the leadership question. Certainly not in their first term anyway. And the fact that Christopher Luxon is actually having to answer whether or not there's a coup against him shows how poorly he's been performing and shows how negatively he is perceived or viewed by the voting public. It also shows his coalition is struggling to convince people that its program is working. To have this question thrown at you after just 2 years in the job as Prime Minister is quite frankly embarrassing.
Now, do you want to talk about the coup?
The what?
The coup.
What coup?
The Chris Bishop coup. He's coming for you.
Look,
this is what I'm listening.
Can I be honest? It's quite hard to take this seriously because I've read all of this before. The whole 4 years I've been in politics.
I'm listening to Heather Duplessis-Allen. He's coming for you.
Look, I don't think that is the case. He is a great minister. He's a good friend and he's doing an awesome job.
How come? Where has all this come from then?
Look, I don't know. It's hard to take it seriously. As I said before, I've been reading this stuff and hearing this stuff ever since I came here. So, but I'm very focused on what I've got to do.
You will lead the National Party to the election in 2026.
Absolutely.
No question.
No question.
Yeah, Hosking hardly pushed him on that one, to be honest, but think about it. No one considered rolling Helen Clark when she became Prime Minister. I was there at the time. She was respected, if not feared, by some in her caucus and the Cabinet, in her own party. In the end, the voters dictated that she lost, not her own MPs. Same for John Key. No one considered rolling John Key. I mean, he won the election. I was there after that, and in the end, he left on his terms and never put his popularity to the test. Instead, he did a managed handover, making Bill English the Prime Minister. No one considered replacing Jacinda Ardern in her first term. All those that I've mentioned had a firm grip, control, and dominated their role with such presence that the leadership question simply never arose. But Christopher Luxon is an entirely different proposition, and there's been chatter about his lack of leadership or weak leadership and poor polling all year, not just in the last few days. It's been around all year.
The last 23 polls National has registered as the most popular party in only 7. Labour's claimed 16.
I would just say to you, when New Zealanders are going to look at the choice that they have next year, it's a pretty simple thing. Do you want a strong, stable government with the coalition that you've seen over the last 2 years, or do you want the mess that's on the other side, which is Labour Party, Māori, the Greens and 2 independents now? And I just think New Zealanders will make that choice.
Yeah, some of it has naturally come from his own MPs who, yes, are worried the chaotic centre-left parties have consistently outpolled them this year, and all fingers were naturally pointed at the President. In this instance, that's the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon. And then as a result of that, ministers who might like to get talked about as a possible replacement, they start to emerge on performance alone, don't they? And they rise above the pack and they start to undeniably look capable enough to not only lead a coup, but to do the job. And both these contenders, and I'm talking about Chris Bishop and Erica Stanford, are the ones that are most likely to step up one day and lead the party. Erica Stanford and Chris Bishop, of course. Both are strong, emerging ministers. Both are reforming ministers as well. Both speak plain language that people understand. And as a leadership team, you'd think that they might be more than capable and more than competent. So are they lining up against Luxon? Short answer right now is no. If they did, they are not doing it now. And they would have to deny it anyway, because that's how coups work. You always deny it. I mean, denying it's the first form of recognition that's happening. But it's also too risky. And it risks also potentially bringing the coalition down. I mean, Winston Peters might say if it happened that, well, this breaks the coalition agreement that he signed. Let's go to the polls, you'd say. And then Bishop and Stanford would not be popular for forcing an early election. They'd be blamed for it, I suppose. And there's no guarantee they would win, because no party's changed their Prime Minister in office and gone on to win the next election. Let me say that again. No Prime Minister has been replaced and the person who's replaced him has gone on to win the next election. Never happened in New Zealand. National can still pull it back, and Luxon's decided to meet this possibility of a challenge head on by reaching for new policies and by attempting to show that he has a new lease on life. His KiwiSaver policy in the last few days, or over the weekend certainly, had all the feel of a Prime Minister facing a new threat and a PM responding after a series of bad polls. It just came from nowhere. Now, maybe he has said to his office, hey, look, get me busy. Or his office has said to him, hey, let's get you busy. One or the other is happening, isn't it? Either way, Luxon has to look busier and look more interested. He needs to get the economy to bounce, but he also needed to do way more this year to make sure that there was some growth in the economy. I mean, coming back and saying, it's the year of growth does not make it so. And it had all the hallmarks of a Jacinda Ardern announcement. Just because you say it, what doesn't actually mean that it's going to happen. You need to actually action some sort of result. And to get growth, you need to do all sorts of things to policy settings, which they didn't do. The government's also failed in many ways to address the cost of living crisis, and they're being blamed for people's struggle right now. And that was always going to come. I mean, in short, Luxon has failed to act, he's failed to inspire, and he's looked aloof and out of touch with Kiwis who have been in the trenches for about the 4th year in a row. That's the truth. Failed to act, failed to inspire, and failed to reduce their stress and their pressure around the cost of living. It doesn't take much for voters to point the finger under that sort of scenario. Hence why Luxon is trying to change voters' perception of him now by going after something big. There's no doubt National Party people, office holders from the outside are talking about Luxon's underwhelming leadership in the last 2 years in office. National Party people I spoke to last Friday night at the Waikato Business Awards asked me when I thought he'd be rolled. Now, they didn't say if, they said when. Now, no MP or minister or party office holder in fundraising wants to do just one term in office. So, yes, the Nats are talking about Luxon's leadership, but it doesn't make it about to happen. But the Luxon might get rolled chatter isn't just coming from bored political tragics or over-caffeinated columnists. It's coming from the House, from inside the House. It's been whispered initially, then flat out screamed into the void of Wellington's ecosystem. You can blame Matthew Hooton or Heather Duplessis-Allen for winding it up. Hell, blame me as well. I was right into it during the year as well. And Luxon knows it. You can see it in the sort of sudden burst of decisive leadership. It looks like a man trying to outrun a narrative rather than lead a nation. He's trying to outrun the narrative that he's going to be replaced. Luxon's biggest problem isn't the numbers, although they're average for this time in the political cycle, but it's the sense that he's losing control of the room. Politics is theatre, and right now Luxon looks like a CEO who walked onto the stage expecting some sort of briefing and instead found himself in some kind of full-on sort of comedy or tragedy. He came in promising stability and certainty and delivery, but instead we've got a government that looks like a sort of a flat-pack coalition assembled without the instructions. You can practically hear the caucus grumbling. Is this actually going well, they're saying to each other? Are we sure he knows what he's doing? They're sort of saying to each other at the back. Are we seriously going into an election like this, is what they're saying to each other. The moment those questions start circulating, you're already in leadership watch territory. You're in trouble. Luxon likes to fire a warning shot every now and then, so he'd do a reshuffle or a sternly worded reprimand here and there. It's classic corporate discipline. Control the room by reminding everyone that you're the boss. That's what he does. But Parliament is not a boardroom. MPs aren't direct reports. They're political animals. They sniff weakness like sharks scent blood, And right now they're circling slowly, lazily, but circling all the same. Luxon's problem is simple. He's trying to lead like a CEO. His caucus wants a politician instead. They want someone with some guts and some instinct. Let's be clear, no one's marching into the caucus room in the next week or so, even tomorrow, to tap him on the shoulder and say, you're done. National doesn't do leadership changes casually, or they don't do them that well. They roll leaders very, very rarely. But they roll leaders when they're heading for electoral disaster and when there's a clear alternative waiting in the wings. Right now, condition number 1 is developing, and condition number 2 is murky around the leadership succession. The pretenders to the throne aren't exactly sharpening their knives on camera, but they're definitely checking the angles and they're doing the work behind the scenes. No one wants to move first, but no one wants to be last either, because when you're last, you miss out. Luxon, I reckon, has got 3 months, 90 days to turn it around. So let's say March. Let's say February, March next year. It's that simple. He has a very small window to steady the ship, or the ship will steady itself without him. If he stumbles in a major interview or botches a big policy or tanks another poll or even rolls out some pathetic, weak policy, then the whispers will turn into open conversations. The conversations turn into meetings. And once the MPs start meeting without you, mate, you're over. My take on this is this. Is Luxon about to be rolled? Not yet. Is he safe? Absolutely not. The roll talk is real. The execution is missing. When they rolled Jim Bolger and they put Shipley in place, I was there. Tony Ryle and Bob Simcock were the MPs in charge of convincing MPs to vote for Shipley. So they were her bum boys, if you like. And they set up meetings, and they called it the Te Puke Bypass. That was what it was in the diary. And under the Te Puke Bypass, that would be a meeting. And everyone thought, well, it was, if it was to be seen in anyone's diary, it was obviously a Te Puke Bypass. Tony Ryle being an MP in that area, for no big deal, right? So that was in people's diaries. And they systematically went about getting her the support by meeting MPs under the guise of talking about the Te Puke bypass. And once Bolger returned from overseas with the Chogham in Britain, he was met at the airport by Doug Graham in Wellington, who told him he'd been rolled. It was over. He didn't believe it, so he got off the plane and he went into Wellington and hit the phones. I was up north playing rugby and I was being told by MPs that Bolger was gone. I didn't believe them. I was in Dargaville in the Hokianga with the parliamentary rugby team and didn't believe them. But that night, Saturday, Sunday, Bolger hit the phones and he soon realised he was dog tucker. And that's when I realised all the phones were going on around me because Bolger was ringing them to find out if he was toast. This Luxon issue is nowhere near that advanced, but this is how coups start. They start with chatter. They start with talk, and talk leads to meetings, as I said. So the pressure is rising, and Luxon, for all his corporate calm, is running out of space to pretend otherwise.